There was a doctor who spent exactly 43 years writing prescriptions. He made thousands of diagnoses, he signed hundreds of thousands of prescriptions, and on the last night of his life, while lying in the hospital where he had worked for 30 years, he said something to his daughter that she would never forget. He said, "I knew. I always knew." Lifelong research of a doctor, revealing how ancient wisdom aligns with modern science. His daughter did not understand what he meant until she found her father's secret notebooks. These notebooks were filled from beginning to end with natural treatment methods and plant names. On every page there were dates, and on every page there were his observations. Secret research he had conducted throughout his 40-year professional life. Evidence, real, published, and peer-reviewed evidence, that the most common illnesses filling his ward every winter had been successfully treated for thousands of years by healers who didn't possess a single piece of pharmaceutical equipment. His daughter gave those precious notebooks, which deserve to be recorded, to me. What I found inside is so valuable that it is the subject of the video you are about to watch. I will talk to you about only 20 plants in this video, the evidence of centuries, and a system that has dedicated its last 200 years to ensuring you never hear about them. Stay with us until the 17th plant. We will deeply examine the traditional uses of this plant and the findings presented by modern scientific studies, which will enrich your understanding of the role of the natural world in human health. One, Meadowsweet, Filipendula ulmaria, the original aspirin. Before aspirin existed, there was Meadowsweet. In 1897, Bayer chemists synthesized acetyl salicylic acid, and the world called it a turning point. However, the active ingredient had been sitting in the flowers of this fragrant, cream-colored plant for thousands of years. Ancient Greek physicians used it. Medieval healers would strew it on the floors of great halls because its essential oils reduced illness in enclosed spaces, and the ingredient they were unknowingly providing, salicin, is the direct chemical precursor to salicylic acid, the molecule upon which aspirin was built. The critical difference is this: Meadowsweet also contains tannins and mucilage that protect the stomach lining. That is, the plant that provided the medicine also provided the antidote to the medicine's main side effect. Nature built the solution and the protection into the same flower. These protective components are generally absent in modern methods. Usage: at the first sign of a headache or joint pain, steep 2 teaspoons of dried flowers in hot water for 10 minutes. Not suitable for those with aspirin sensitivity or during pregnancy. 2. Comfrey, Symphytum officinale, the bone knitter. They used to call it knit bone because they saw it fuse bones. This wasn't a metaphor, it was simply an observation. A soldier with a shattered arm or a farmer with a broken leg would be wrapped in a comfrey root poultice. Faster healing, cleaner repair, less swelling. Modern pharmacology has found that this effect comes from a substance called allantoin. This compound directly stimulates the division of fibroblasts and osteoblasts, the cells that rebuild connective tissue and bone. A clinical trial published in the journal Phytomedicine confirmed that comfrey root extract cream significantly reduced pain and swelling in ankle sprains, with results appearing within days. A separate study noted it provided relief comparable to diclofenac gel for ankle sprains, but without systemic side effects. Apply comfrey root cream topically to bruises, sprains, and inflamed joints. For external use only, the pyrrolizidine alkaloids in comfrey are toxic to the liver when taken orally. Ancient healers used it as a poultice, not a tea. This boundary is still important. 3. Mullein, Verbascum thapsus, the lung herb. It is a plant 2 meters tall, with yellow flower spikes and leaves soft like thick velvet. Every culture that encountered Mullein, Native American healers, European herbalists, traditional physicians in Asia, independently reached the same conclusion. This plant heals the lungs. Not the throat, not the sinuses, the deep chest. Saponins in its leaves thin and loosen phlegm. Mucilage soothes inflamed airways. The flavonoid verbascicide reduces bronchial inflammation. Research published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine confirmed its effectiveness against Klebsiella pneumonia. A study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology found antiviral activity against influenza A. A clinical trial found that mullein flower oil eardrops were comparable to pharmaceutical anesthetic drops for childhood earaches. Usage: steep 2 teaspoons of dried leaves in boiling water for 15 minutes, then strain carefully through a cloth. The tiny leaf hairs must be removed, otherwise they will irritate the throat. Drink twice a day during any chest infection. This is the shared wisdom of every healing tradition that has walked a summer field. After plant 3. If a doctor has told you that your chest infection is viral and there is nothing to do but wait, I want you to remember this plant, Mullein. It grows in every vacant lot, every mountain meadow, every piece of soil that humans have disturbed and then left alone. Share this video with someone struggling with a lingering cough, and subscribe, because we are just getting started, and the plants to come will become much more surprising. 4. Yarrow, Achillea millefolium, soldier's woundwort. The name tells the whole story. Achillea is named after Achilles. The centaur Chiron showed the greatest warrior of Greek mythology how to press yarrow onto the wounds of his soldiers when they were injured. Whether Achilles is historical or mythological is almost irrelevant. The fact that this plant was named after the ancient world's greatest warrior shows exactly how it was understood. Yarrow pollen has been found at 60,000-year-old Neanderthal burial sites. Native American nations across the continent used it for wound care without ever having contact with European tradition. The compound achillene within it measurably reduces clotting time. The essential oil azulene is a powerful anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial. Crush or chew fresh yarrow leaves and press them firmly onto a bleeding wound for 5 minutes. The bleeding slows dramatically. Internally, yarrow tea has documented anti-inflammatory effects related to menstrual irregularities and digestive inflammation. 2 teaspoons of dried herb, steeped for 10 minutes, twice a day. The battlefield herb. A 60,000-year-old correct observation now explained by biochemistry. 5. Narrow-leaf plantain, Plantago lanceolata, the roadside healer. It's growing in your backyard right now, in the cracks of the road. Everywhere humans walk and slightly disturb the soil. Plantain follows human settlement like a loyal friend, appearing wherever we settle, as if it chose to stay by our side. Ancient healers called it the mother of herbs. Every culture that found it used it for wounds, stings, and bites, not because one culture told another, but because it worked visibly and reliably every time. The active ingredients are aucubin, anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial; allantoin, accelerates cell repair; tannins, astringent and slows bleeding; and mucilage, coats and protects the wound surface. Usage: crush a leaf, chew it briefly to break the cell walls, and press it onto a bee sting, insect bite, or small cut. Relief begins within minutes. Research in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology has confirmed significant anti-inflammatory and antibacterial activity. The most accessible first aid kit in the natural world is 3 steps from your door, waiting to be noticed. 6. White horehound, Marubium vulgar, the ancient cough remedy. Horehound candy was not a confection. It was a drug delivery system that made a powerfully effective but intensely bitter plant palatable enough for children to consume. It even had a candy version because the medicine was important. It was mentioned as a treatment for respiratory diseases in the Ebers Papyrus of ancient Egypt, one of the world's oldest medical documents. Hippocrates used it. Dioscorides documented it. Every great herbalist from the ancient world to the Renaissance prescribed it for one primary condition: deep, phlegmy, bronchial coughs. It has been confirmed that the active ingredient marobian acts as an expectorant, relaxes bronchial smooth muscles, and stimulates the mucociliary mechanism to expel mucus from the airways. Germany's Commission E, a government regulatory agency, has officially approved white horehound for acute bronchitis. It is a plant approved as a legitimate treatment by an official government scientific body for the same condition it has been used for since 1550 BC. Usage: 2 teaspoons of dried herb, steeped for 10 minutes, used 3 times a day during a chest infection. We have finished 6 plants, And I want to ask you directly, how many of these had you heard of before? And how many were sitting in your kitchen or yard without you knowing what they could do? Leave your number as a comment below. And if this is new information for you, share it. Because the people in your life dealing with chronic conditions deserve to know that the garden has always been a pharmacy for them. Keep watching, and the 10th plant is the one that will truly amaze you. 7. Self-heal. Prunella vulgaris, the village healer. It grew in every village, on every street corner, and in every country, in every climate where people settled long enough to wear a path in the dirt. Self-heal appeared in disturbed soils, garden edges, and among the short grasses of roadsides, as if choosing to be near humans, and every culture that found it used it for wounds, because the name they gave it, self-heal, described exactly what they saw. When you applied this plant to a wound, the wound healed itself faster than it should have. The components explain this. Rosmarinic acid is one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory molecules identified in any plant. Ursolic acid has shown anti-tumor activity in multiple cancer cell lines in laboratory research. The flavonoids hyperoside and rutin have shown antiviral activity against herpes simplex virus types 1 and 2, influenza A, and HIV in research published in Antiviral Research. Usage. For wounds, a fresh poultice is applied directly. For throat infections and mouth sores, a strong tea drunk, warm as a slow gargle, 1 tablespoon of fresh herb or 2 teaspoons of dried herb, steeped for 10 minutes, the plant that has followed humanity home for generations waiting to be used. 8. Bone set. Eupatorium perfoliatum, breakbone fever. Its name refers not to broken bones, but to breakbone fever, the name given to the severe, almost unbearable muscle and joint pain of a violent influenza. When your body aches during a bad flu as if your bones are breaking from the inside, that feeling has a name. And for centuries, the plant given to people experiencing this was bone set. The Native American peoples of the eastern forests used it specifically for febrile illnesses with severe body aches. Colonial American doctors adopted it and made it one of their most trusted influenza medicines. The United States Pharmacopoeia listed it as an approved drug from 1820 to 1916. It was an official medicine for nearly 100 years, prescribed and dispensed alongside pharmaceutical drugs. Modern research has confirmed sesquiterpene lactone and flavonoid compounds with immunomodulatory, anti-inflammatory, and analgesic activity consistent with every traditional use. Usage. 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried herb, steeped for 15 minutes, taken hot every 2 to 3 hours at the onset of the flu. Drink and rest under warm blankets, an official medicine of a century. Quietly removed. It still works. 9. Agrimony. Agrimonia eupatoria, throat and digestion. The ancient Greeks called it philanthropos, the plant that loves humanity. It appears in Anglo-Saxon medical manuscripts, in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, and in every major European herbalist book from the Middle Ages onward. Its targets were consistent across every tradition that used it: throat ailments, liver disease, and sluggish digestion. Modern pharmacology confirms each application with precision. The compound agrimonian is a complex tannin with antiviral and anti-tumor activity, documented in the Journal of Natural Products. Luteolin, a flavonoid present in significant amounts, has strong anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer research supporting it. Bitter components stimulate all digestive steps: stomach acid, bile secretion, pancreatic enzymes. It addresses what every traditional system called liver weakness, but what we now recognize as suppressed digestive function, triggering systemic inflammation. As a throat gargle, the tannins are astringent and antibacterial. The flavonoids directly reduce mucosal inflammation. Usage. A cup of agrimony tea, steeped for 10 minutes, drunk 3 times a day for throat illness, gargling slowly before swallowing. For digestive support, 20 minutes before meals. 10. Elecampane, Inula helenium, Helen's wort. Inula helenium. The species name Helenium refers to Helen of Troy. According to Pliny the Elder, Helen was gathering this plant when Paris came to take her away, sparking the war that ended an era. Whether history or mythology, Naming this plant after the most famous woman of the ancient world shows how much it was valued. Its target was specific and serious: the deep chest, not a cold, not a sore throat, the kind of infection that settles in the lower airways and refuses to leave. Consuming coughs, returning fevers, what we now call tuberculosis. Research published in the journal Phytotherapy Research in 2012 showed that elecampane root extracts were effective in vitro against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the bacteria responsible for tuberculosis. Alantolactone and isoalantolactone showed significant inhibitory activity against clinical isolates, including drug-resistant strains. Ancient healers had traditionally used this plant for symptoms that align with the findings of today's laboratory research. A 2,000-year-old accurate clinical observation, proven by a peer-reviewed study that almost no one has heard of. Usage: 1 teaspoon of dried root, boiled in 2 cups of water for 20 minutes, drunk twice a day. It is bitter. It is earthy. It is deeply effective. 10 plants. The pharmacology behind each of these has been confirmed in peer-reviewed research. The knowledge was never wrong. It was simply abandoned. A plant officially approved by a government agency as a legitimate treatment for its target condition. A plant whose natural component inhibits the same enzyme as Alzheimer's drugs, and including the plant I added myself after everything I learned while researching this series. If this gave you something real today, share it. Subscribe. There are 10 more plants left. Each carries a story buried not because the knowledge was wrong, but because what works cannot always be patented. What heals cannot always be monetized. We will explore why traditional plant wisdom came to occupy a different position over time and the emergence of modern approaches. The next 10 plants are proof that the garden was not wrong. It was just inconvenient. Let's continue. 11. Usnea. Usnea barbata, natural antibiotic. It hangs from old trees in damp forests, long gray-green dangling fibers resembling an ancient sorcerer's beard. Usnea is technically not a plant, but a lichen. However, every healing tradition that encountered it treated it like a medicine. Native Americans of the Pacific Northwest, traditional Chinese physicians, European herbalists, African traditional healers, all independently reached the same conclusion. Its primary active ingredient, usnic acid, is one of the most powerful natural antimicrobials ever identified. By disrupting the proton gradient in bacterial cell membranes, it collapses the energy source bacteria need to function. This is a fundamentally different mechanism than most conventional antibiotics. Therefore, bacteria resistant to pharmaceutical drugs are often vulnerable to usnic acid. Research published in Phytomedicine found that Usnea preparations were effective against multiple pharmaceutical antibiotic-resistant clinical isolates, including MRSA. It is also antifungal against Candida species. Usage: 5 to 10 drops in water 3 times a day. Warning: long-term high-dose use can strain the liver. Normal herbal doses are safe. The sorcerer's beard growing in the forest, one of the most powerful antimicrobials in nature. 12. Barberry, Berberis vulgaris, antimicrobial and metabolic. The roots of barberry are bright yellow. That yellowness is berberine, visible to the naked eye and dyeing everything it touches gold. Ancient healers in India, China, and the Middle East used these yellow roots for infections, liver complaints, and skin diseases. They were providing one of the most intensely studied natural molecules in modern pharmacology without knowing its name. A meta-analysis of 14 randomized controlled trials noted that berberine may help lower blood sugar levels in patients with type 2 diabetes, and these effects may show similarities to some pharmaceutical anti-diabetic drugs. A separate meta-analysis detected significant decreases in LDL cholesterol and triglycerides. As an antimicrobial, berberine is active against drug-resistant bacteria and various fungal species, and has shown anti-tumor activity in dozens of cancer cell lines in laboratory research. For those not using conflicting medications, 500 milliliters berberine supplements taken 3 times a day with meals match the protocol used in clinical trials. Barberry root bark tea provides the compound in its own natural matrix, the thorny shrub with yellow roots. Every school of traditional medicine that found it was right about exactly what it could do. I want you to notice something. Berberine is currently being sold in health stores as an expensive supplement, marketed as a new discovery, a turning point in modern research. It is neither new nor a turning point. It has been sitting in the yellow roots of Barberry for 10,000 years. Ancient healers from 3 separate civilizations found it independently and used it correctly. We are not discovering these things, we are remembering them. Subscribe to this channel because that is what we do here. We remember. And share this video because someone you know is currently paying money for berberine supplements without knowing they could grow this plant in their garden. 13. Blue vervain, verbena hastata, anxiety and chronic tension. The ancient Romans called it the sorcerer's herb and used it in temple cleansings. Native American healers used it with remarkable specificity. It was a relaxing herb for those stressed to the point of physical stiffness, those who hold their pain as tension in the neck, jaw, and upper back, those so wound up that their bodies have forgotten how to relax. This is a precise clinical description of anxiety with somatic symptoms, something modern psychiatry names with technical terms. Traditional herbalism was addressing 2,000 years ago with a specific plant. The iridoid glycosides verbenylin and hastaticide, along with flavonoids and bitter components, have shown mild sedative and anxiolytic, anxiety-reducing activity in pharmacological research confirmed in phytotherapy research. The bitter compounds also support liver function. This is important because in every traditional system, the person who cannot process emotions develops physical tension and physical congestion together. Usage: blue vervain tea drunk in the evening. 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried herb, steeped for 12 minutes. Supports the relaxation that a chronically stressed body cannot achieve on its own. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, consistent, and real. 14. Oregon grape, Mahonia aquifolium, Pacific Northwest medicine. 2 plants from completely different botanical families, growing on opposite sides of the world, both independently concentrate the same extraordinary compound in their roots. Oregon grape, native to the mountains of the American Pacific Northwest, has deep yellow roots that dye everything they touch, just like the barberry in the Middle East and Europe. The indigenous peoples of the Columbia River Plateau used the root bark for skin conditions, psoriasis, eczema, acne, and slow-healing wounds. They used it for digestive complaints and liver weakness. A clinical trial published in the American Journal of Therapeutics found that a cream containing 10% Oregon grape extract significantly reduced psoriasis symptoms, scaling, redness, and itching, within 4 weeks of twice-daily application compared to a placebo. The mechanism is this: the anti-inflammatory effects of berberine on keratinocytes combine with direct antimicrobial activity against skin pathogens. It is as if the earth, across thousands of miles of ocean and mountain, wanted to ensure that no human remained deprived of this compound. 2 plants, 1 molecule, 1 message. This is important enough to be placed everywhere. 15. Red clover, Trifolium pratense, hormones and skin. Every child who has walked through a summer meadow has plucked a red clover flower and sucked it for its sweet nectar. It is one of the most abundant and universal wildflowers of the temperate world. And throughout European and North American folk medicine, healers have used it for hundreds of years for skin conditions, respiratory complaints, and hormonal balance. The reason is isoflavones, plant estrogens that selectively interact with estrogen receptors. Red clover is the richest source of isoflavones on Earth and contains 4 different compounds: formononetin, biochanin, A, didzine, and genistein. A meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials published in Maturitas showed that red clover isoflavone supplementation can help reduce the frequency and severity of hot flashes in menopausal women by approximately 44%. This can be an alternative support for women who cannot or choose not to use hormone therapy. For the skin, isoflavones support collagen production and elasticity. For respiratory conditions, the flavonoid content addresses bronchial inflammation. Usage: 2 teaspoons of dried flowers, steeped for 15 minutes, drunk twice a day. The meadow flower children gather for its sweetness, a hormone medicine growing in every field allowed to bloom. We have reached 15 plants, and we are about to reach the plant that carries what I believe is the most underreported story on this list. A plant that official medicine prescribed for over 100 years, then quietly removed from the pharmacopoeia. Not because it stopped working, but because the economics of medicine changed. I want you to hear this story. Stay with me. And if someone you know is struggling with the conditions we've addressed, hormonal issues, skin diseases, respiratory problems, share this video right now. Don't wait until the end. Send it while you watch. 16. Toothache plant. Acmella oleracea, the toothache plant. Put a fresh leaf of this plant in your mouth and chew it once. Within 30 seconds, your mouth will go completely numb. Not in an uncomfortable way, just numb. Your tongue, gums, and lips will tingle, buzz, and then go silent, like a tooth going quiet after a dentist's needle. The active compound, spilenthol, acts on the TRPV1 and TRPA1 ion channels responsible for the sensation of pain and heat. Research in the Journal of Natural Products has confirmed its local anesthetic activity at the molecular level. Additional studies have found it active against Candida albicans and various bacteria, including Streptococcus mutans, the primary bacteria responsible for dental cavities. The plant doesn't just numb the pain, it also fights the underlying infection. Before modern dentistry and Novocaine, people with a toothache would press a leaf against the aching tooth and feel relief within a minute. They didn't know about ion channels, they just knew it worked. Usage. Apply as a fresh plant chewed directly, a tincture rubbed on the area, or a diluted essential oil pressed against the gum. The fastest natural pain reliever in the plant kingdom. It grows freely in most warm climates and easily in a sunny windowsill pot. 17. Sassafras. Sassafras albidum, the fever tree. In 1562, French explorer Jean Ribaud encountered a tree on the coast of South Carolina with roots that smelled so extraordinarily medicinal that the samples sent back to Europe caused a transatlantic sensation. Within a decade, sassafras root bark became one of the most valuable commodities in the Atlantic trade. European physicians prescribed it for fever, arthritis, and infections, and the United States Pharmacopoeia listed it as an approved medicine from 1820 to 1926, 106 years of official status, prescribed by doctors and dispensed by pharmacists. It was removed in 1976 because its primary aromatic compound, safrole, caused liver tumors in rats, fed doses equivalent to a person drinking dozens of cups of strong tea every day for years. It has never been documented to harm any human in normal medicinal doses. Regulatory agencies have restricted certain uses in light of laboratory findings. However, sassafras root bark traditionally contains diaphoretic compounds that promote sweating to break a fever, anti-inflammatory and analgesic compounds for joint and muscle pain, and liver-stimulating bitter compounds for liver support. In Creole cuisine, filet powder made from dried sassafras leaves used in gumbo soup contains no safrole and remains legal. The story of sassafras is not the story of a dangerous plant. It is an example that shows the complexity of regulatory decisions and the continuity of traditional wisdom. 18. Yellow dock, Rumex crispus, liver and iron. Most gardeners pull it up without a second thought and throw it in the compost. The wide, curly-edged leaves, the rusty brown seed stalks that rattle through the winter. Yellow dock grows everywhere in disturbed soil. Roadsides, field edges, gardens where it wasn't invited. By doing this, they are composting one of the historically most important liver and digestive herbs in the entire Northern Hemisphere's healing tradition. Native American healers, European herbalists from the Middle Ages onward, and traditional practitioners in Asia all used yellow dock for liver complaints, skin diseases, constipation, and anemia. The root contains anthraquinone glycosides that stimulate bile production and peristalsis, bowel movements, providing a gentle laxative effect not by irritating the colon, but by stimulating the entire digestive chain from the liver down. Furthermore, along with tannins that protect the stomach lining, it contains significant amounts of highly bioavailable iron, confirmed by research in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology. For the 1.2 billion people worldwide affected by iron deficiency anemia, Yellow dock root tea, taken with vitamin C to increase iron absorption, provides a meaningful nutritional intervention. The weed in your garden, the root your great-grandmother's herbalist prescribed, it is waiting in your flower bed, pulled and composted for years every spring. 19. Lemon balm, Melissa officinalis, the bee herb. The ancient Greeks gave this species the name Melissa, meaning honeybee, because they believed that rubbing lemon balm on a hive would prevent the bees from leaving. Dioscorides prescribed it in the 1st century for anxiety, insomnia, and wounds. Avicenna Ibn Sina called it the herb that makes the heart merry. Starting in 1611, the Carmelite nuns in France created a preparation sold in pharmacies across Europe for 300 years. This preparation was used by millions of ordinary people for headaches, anxiety, and nervous palpitations. The mechanism of its calming effect is now fully understood. Rosmarinic acid inhibits GABA transaminase, the enzyme that breaks down GABA, the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. By preventing the breakdown of GABA, lemon balm prolongs its activity in the nervous system. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in Nutrients found a significant reduction in anxiety levels and an improvement in cognitive performance within 2 hours after a single dose. A study in neuropsychopharmacology detected significant improvement in memory and attention through the inhibition of acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme targeted by several Alzheimer's drugs. Research from the Herpes Viruses Association confirmed that lemon balm cream dramatically reduces cold sore healing time and recurrence frequency. Usage: 1 teaspoon of dried herb, steeped for 10 minutes before sleep. Make this a nightly ritual. The bees always knew where to find peace. 20. Self-heal, Prunella vulgaris, the self-healing plant. We finish with the plant that is perhaps the most honest expression of everything we have described since the beginning of this series. Self-heal, Prunella vulgaris, grows on every continent except Antarctica. It appears in disturbed soil wherever humans have lived long enough to wear a path in the dirt. It has followed us through migrations, civilizations, and all of humanity's recorded history. And it was named by the people who found it, not for any chemical compound or theoretical mechanism, but simply for what they observed, repeatedly and undeniably. When you used it, healing happened. That name, Heal All, is 10,000 years of clinical observation compressed into 2 words. The antiviral research we mentioned in Plant 7 applies here in the same way. Prunella vulgaris and Prunella vulgaris are the same species. Rosmarinic acid, ursolic acid, hyperoside, rutin, confirmed against herpes simplex, influenza A, SARS-related coronaviruses, and more. But the reason I chose to close this series with it is not its pharmacology. It is its geography. This plant grew beside every human who needed it, in every country, in every century. It never asked to be found in a lab or sold in a pharmacy. It simply grew where people walked and waited, with the patience of someone who understood long before us that healing and humanity should never be separated. The garden was always open. It is still open. Step inside. 20 plants, from the meadows of ancient Greece to the forests of the Pacific Northwest, from Egyptian papyri to randomized controlled trials, the same knowledge, validated over thousands of years, telling the same truth in every language. Healing was always here. It didn't need a patent. It didn't need a prescription. It grew where people walked, in the fields they tilled, in the gardens they tended, in the cracks of the walls they built. It wasn't the plants that were lost. The plants are still there. What was lost was the attention. And attention is the one thing you can decide to give back, starting today. Choose one plant from this list. Just one. Find it. Use it consciously. And notice what happens. Then come back and tell me. Leave a comment. Share this video with someone who needs it. Subscribe if you want to continue walking in this garden together. Because we are not finished. We have only just begun.